Camille Al
Morning.
Sheikh, welcome back. It's great to see you again, and you've been up to some things. I haven't seen you on the map for a little bit. Things got a little slowed down, like everything kind of tampered down for a little bit since last year. For those that don't know, Camille was the one to organize the million-person march against. Was it Soji and what's happening in the schools surrounding parental rights?
Sexual indoctrination. Yeah, and just liberating Canada's kids. So, I said one nation under God, however way you believe in your God, or we just asked everybody to come together as parents, respecting each other's beliefs, coming together based on our commonalities, and that was the kids.
Well, and it was a great showing. I went and documented the one place in Vancouver. It was in many major cities all throughout Canada. It was a tremendous event. There was lots of counter protests as well. They got kind of a lot of ruckus and a lot of hurt feelings, but people got out there and they showed where they were. And what I found most impressive about it was people of all different ethnicities, religious values, different people of different walks of life, even people who are opposed to each other politically. They all got together for this as parents, and that was really an accomplishment. What are you working on now?
So I don't know if you remember, Clyde, you've been following a lot of our work. Obviously, there was a 6 or 7 month period where people didn't see any activity. We didn't stop. Christians, Muslims from coast to coast, we still worked because we knew I had promised, and I'd like to deliver on our promises. I don't like to talk too much about it if there's no need to talk about it, right? We had 6 or 7 months. The nation is looking around the world, the Ukraine, the Palestinian thing, all that kind of stuff, and there's all kinds of opinions and comments. So Christians and Muslims were definitely committed, working around the clock for the past 6, 7 months, because I had issued a warning in our 1.5 million people from coast to coast to the Pride community that if you dare to counter our protest, if you remember that video that went
I
viral,
do.
that we will consider that we will consider countering every one of your Pride activities. Now, they didn't take us seriously. They honestly thought. Now, I have a massive network. I'm privileged to work with some of the best people in Canada and the world. So I was all in, and I knew that we had the capabilities to execute this. But I think the Pride community, including the government, Jagmeet Singh looked me in the eye that day and they were shocked. They had 300 people countering in Ottawa when we had thousands. I don't know if you've seen the footage in Ottawa. We filled the streets, we filled all of downtown core, west downtown, east downtown, and we scared them away. At the end, there was a confrontation for the CBC and CTV, but I was serious about that threat, that peaceful threat. I will consider every one of your activities a counter. We didn't forget, Clyde. So what we did, June is that flashy month, and I won't use the Pride June term because we're claiming June back as Canada's parents, the 98.4% of the straight tide, which is the counter to the Pride in all my speeches. Mm-hmm. And I said it's going to be My Child June, which rhymes with Pride June. So moving forward, every year, it's going to be My Child June. And that's a series of daily activities. Parents are dressing their kids in red and white for the Canadian flag. Mm-hmm. And they're going in, and we've asked parents to buy a Canadian flag from your local dollar store, to go in and show your teachers and your educators that there's only one flag that we adhere to. With all due respect to that colorful community. You want to live that way, you're in Canada. Mm-hmm. Okay? But what you have been doing is you have been engaging in compulsion on all Canadians, irregardless of their faith. And that means Christian Canadians who It's obvious what they believe in the Bible. Muslims, same thing. Muslims believe in Jesus and the original testament of the Bible. Jews, Buddhists, the Dalai Lama called that sexual orientation, sexual misconduct on the CBC. That's Buddhist, Sikhs, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we are very honest about it. We are not going to judge you because the Creator, when we die and turn into dust, He's going to judge us. We're saying, leave our kids alone. It's a very simple message, but it wasn't taken seriously. So we scheduled a series of events, some of them discreet and some of them public, where we did a nationwide walkout with all our affiliates from coast to coast.
Before you get into that, I just want to get into some of the counterpoints, right? So we have, when I went to the event in Vancouver, I saw a lot of people from the actual gay community, what would you call that, the LGBT community, on the side of the parents at that event, saying, no, it's not right what's happening in the schools. Yeah, this isn't something. Now, what it's being painted at is in the media is that the parental rights or the anti-SOGI groups are against gays or against trans individuals. So what's the official take on that?
Well, again, this is families. Most have some kind of ideology that they adhere to. If you're a Muslim Canadian values. If you're a Christian or a Jew or a Buddhist, you have Christian Canadian values. And, the problem, they think that we are targeting them when our main focus is just the kids. You came to the schools, you had an imam that says Allah loves gays, and he changed the quotes in the Quran and went to 4 high schools in Ottawa. You had Muslims in Calgary told by a woke teacher, go back to your country, and they were born there.
Okay? Forgive me, but isn't it that Muslims take blasphemy pretty seriously? I'm just throwing that one out there. Yeah. I don't know. You see.
We're very big about our faith. We're very particular about our faith. Actually, we're willing to die for our faith because we believe with absolute certainty. We commit to our land, wherever it is. You have to commit with absolute certainty, serve your fellow man. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says a person is either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. So we're very meticulous about that. And so when a teacher tells you something like that, Islam is a way of life. We pray 5 times a day. We fast Ramadan for a whole month. Like, we're very strict in our discipline. Mm-hmm. And to be told, oh, okay, you have to accept that because somehow somebody gets offended. Well, that's not democracy anymore. It's the same as me being a Muslim coming to you, Clyde, my fellow Canadian brother, and telling you, Clyde, I won't talk to you unless you become a Muslim. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. You are free to practice anything you want. Freedom of consciousness. You are afforded that under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. You have the freedom of religion, whatever that is. That could be agnostic. Okay?
It could be this flying spaghetti monster. It could be anything. It's anything that fits under that.
Exactly. Yeah. And you also have the freedom to take the spaghetti monster and congregate with fellow people that believe in the spaghetti monster. And you also have the freedom to engage with the media about the spaghetti monster, as an example. So you were created free if you believe that there's a deity out there, however way you believe in that deity. And you were created with freedom of speech, freedom of consciousness to execute anything you believe. That's what democracies are all about. Now, we got a prime minister who, unfortunately, is the son of a degenerate mom, and he has become degenerate himself. He got divorced. I'm not being judgmental. I'm just stating the facts. Right. Now, we're both going to meet our creators. He could have sincere intentions, but so far, 9 years, those intentions look pretty sinister to most Canadians.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not the judge. I'm a humble servant of the Creator myself. I'm going to be judged too,
Oh, I'm happy
right?
to say
So,
that he did a terrible job. I'm pretty, yeah,
yeah, me too.
yeah.
We're allowed to say that because he's our prime minister, me, you both.
So I
Now,
just want to get
he
back to
seems
this.
to be the rainbow flag prime minister,
So I just want to get back to this
not this one.
because this is the thing that the media is drilling on about, is that anyone who is against Soji, anyone who is against this is against uh, gay or trans individuals. I'm talking like even adults, consensual adults doing consensual things in their own time. Is that what this group is about, or is this just about the kids?
No, this is about the kids. This is about don't you flash your ornaments in front of my kids. I went to downtown Ottawa. My wife, and I'll be honest with you, and this is a personal matter. Actually, two personal matters happened to me. My wife wears the hijab, and she's a very religious lady. And my daughter wears the hijab. She's 16, and she's studying to be a lawyer. When they were a bit younger, 10 years ago, we went to downtown Ottawa, and there was a pride bike ride, people showing their ornaments while we were getting beaver tails. Now, my rights as a Canadian Muslim were infringed. That was the first point. 5 years ago, my daughter was swimming in an all-female pool. Christian girls, white girls, black, and it was perceived to be an all-female pool. That's what I paid for.
Mm-hmm.
The lifeguard was a transgender guy who didn't transition. And my daughter came out of that pool crying. Dad, he saw my body, and my body is my sanctuary.
Right.
And she was crying. And I said, I promise I'm not going to take you back there again. So my rights were infringed there. The Soji agenda, my kids, obviously our fellow Christian brothers and sisters, we align a lot. We both love Jesus. One of my kids, I had them in a Catholic school, and then they were coloring pride flags. Again, I had to pull them out and put them in a private school. But usually what we do is we keep them for a couple of years, especially if it's kindergarten and stuff like that, and then put them in a private school because it's pretty darn expensive, right? So you want to make sure that they're actually concentrating because the standard's pretty high. So they call you bigot. They call you okay. So I have to adhere to your 500 pronouns, to your degenerate thoughts in the streets, to the twerking man in Toronto, the fat gay man with his white underwear, where you could see everything, and he's twerking in front of little kids, and parents should be ashamed of themselves watching that twerking man. Or what about the other twerking men? Sorry, they weren't twerking. They were naked while being aroused, and there was kids walking by. That's degeneracy. Now, if you're telling me that you're gay and you're in your home, minding your own business, going to work, I worked with gay subordinates. I managed them, and I was very fair to them. I had gay bosses. And I worked with them for years. Mm-hmm. Tolerance? That's tolerance. But you're telling me to embrace your ideals by force, irregardless of my beliefs? That's a straight no.
Right. Fair enough. So tell me, what are the events that you're organizing at the current time?
So obviously, Pride June is going to be met with My Child June, all of June. And we've asked parents, we opened a new wing in the movement called the Education Wing. They're working on templates with our current movement city managers across the nation. And what they're doing is some of the activities are discreet. There's surprise days where we send kids in red and white carrying flags into the schools and protesting that way. There's picnics organized. There's all kinds of activities. Same, like My Child June is going to be a loud party because you guys were loud for 40 years, and we just didn't want to be disrespectful. But once you came to our kids, that's where we drew the line.
Right.
And now we're going to push back and put you where you're supposed to be because you don't procreate to say anything about kids. Why? Now, and remember, there was a song last year, "We're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your kids."
Yeah, I reported on that at the time, and a lot of people, when they saw that, they thought, well, okay, well, this is a step too far. Even people who are pro the LGBT and the whole alphabet soup movement,
Yeah.
when they saw that, they said, okay, that's obviously too far. Now you have this new event that just took place on June 3rd, 2024, and it was Keep Your Kids Home. Teach them nationality, not sexuality. I like that. That's got a ring to it. And so, was it success? Was it a success? How did this work out?
That was the IT team. I got to give those guys credit. All the team, man. You got the education wing, the movement city managers, all that stuff. All the credit goes to them. I'm just facilitating as best as I can, and I'm actually learning from them as well. So this particular event was boycotting the pride flag that has the crescent of the blue, minor attracted persons for boys, and pink, minor attracted persons for girls. There's no such thing as minor attracted persons. There's a pedophile.
Right.
And now you're taking Soji and you're castrating little kids, gender modifying care without their parents being told. I think that those rules should apply for pedophiles. And I'll be honest with you, this is, you know.
So the pink, the white, and the blue. I'm just gonna. I have to push back on this one because the pink, white, and the blue is supposed to be for transgender. Is that not the case? I thought that was the meaning of those in the flag.
You know what? The acronyms keep going. It keeps changing. I can't keep up with it, Clyde.
Well, I can totally say that that's a fair point. Absolutely, that's fair. I have to look this stuff up because I need to get definitions for these things, and I have to wrap my brain around it because there's no real logic, rhyme, or reason. It's very arbitrary, and it's like remembering all the Pokemon. It's not again, it's not logical.
Yeah, I mean, how do you memorize all that stuff? How do you memorize it?
Oh, you got to really be into it. Let me tell
again,
you.
I don't really care. Yeah, I don't really care, to be honest. To know because, it's like asking the Pride community, that are not Muslim. Hey, do you know verse number 156 of the Quran? You should know because I'm going to be offended. Like,
that's fair.
Why would I do that?
That's a really good point.
Right? So, yeah. So for me, it's like, I don't care what you believe. In my head, there's one male, one female. In your head, there's 500 genders. I think you need help. I'm not going to condemn you. I suggest go get some help. And you know what? You got my support that way. But to go and tell me that I have to play your little game of pronouns, I'm not going to do it. And I said, Clyde, we were unapologetic about that. We're very transparent. We're very honest. And this is why we've gone international now. We're in the UK. We're in Dearborn, Detroit. We're in Lebanon, Iraq, parts of the Middle East. We're in Dubai, This is a world movement. And it started in Canada.
I think I saw the Lebanese community last year around September. They had a clash in California as well. I think it was in Berkeley, California, if I remember correctly. So this is going pretty wild. And again, it's a pushback because of something that's pushed too far. Okay, you want your rights. Okay, you want recognition. Okay, you want all these things. But compulsion for other people to do a thing for you, that's, I think, where people draw the line and say, no, not going to do that. Absolutely. And don't force my kids to do that as well. That's really an egregious thing. So you have other things planned. I have this poster up here. I'll just zoom it up so people can see. One Nation Under God Rally for Children, Parliament Hill. And this will be Saturday, June 15th, 2024. Tell me about this.
Now, that particular rally, if I'm going to bring you down memory lane, we were at the Ottawa Catholic District School Board, I believe, right behind the Sir Robert Boarding building. And that's the day where Christians, Muslims were protesting several times, but the bond there, they're like, oh my God, we got a match made in heaven here. There was a plethora of people very upset, and it was an uproar. I was looking at the audience, and I just articulated it, and the words just came to me from the blessings of the Creator, I think. And I said there was a rhetoric in the media, and that video was shared widely, that to tell Christians that Muslims don't like them, and to tell Muslims that Christians don't like them.
Yeah.
And I said, today, you guys are proof that we are one nation under God. And then it was just, my eardrums were going to explode because of the cheers. You had people in cross, you had Black people, you had First Nations, you had Muslims. And that day was the cohesion and the pact that we formed, which was the birth of Hands Off Our Kids. So we're going to make it a massive nationwide rally. We already got the permits for Parliament Hill, the permits for the Ottawa Police. We have teams working in Milton. I'm going to give a shout out to NCI.
Okay.
My dear sister, Christine McPherson. I'm going to put you on the spot. She did great work. She's the Ottawa chair for NCI, but she's also movement city manager for Ottawa West Nepean and Hands Off Our Kids. We work with everybody. Campaign Life as well. I got to give them credit for June 1st last year. Debbie Duval, Jack Forsica, I keep pronouncing his name. I think I'm demolishing it. For Campaign Life, the 500,000 signatures, they came up to me and they told me, if you can sign this, this means a lot to the organization. I'm like, get the paper, let me sign it. So now we have that cohesion, and it's pretty much, in instances, it's cut and paste. So June, everything is being created. September, we're already ready for Million People March Part 2. So that would be on Friday, September 20th, 2024. But now let's...
Okay, yeah, some technical difficulties. I warned you about this. Starlink, we're on it, and we get interruptions every once in a while. Not everyone on Starlink gets interruptions, but we have a lot of trees around us, so it happens. It's just what I have to do for the next few months while I'm in transition between places. Camille,
hey, you know what?
Yeah,
do what you got to do. It's always beautiful, your show.
Thank you for your patience on this one, Camille. Okay, where were we? Some of the events that you have organized. It's pretty exciting for a lot of people. Glad to see that you're back and at it. I know a lot of people were concerned, including myself, that because of the whole Israel-Palestine thing and the protests that are surrounding that, that a lot of the Muslim communities were focused on that and not on this thing with Soji and protecting children. So
yes.
If you could just, jump on that for a little bit. I noticed that
absolutely.
a lot of those protests became, it's almost reminiscent of the Summer of Love with, they call it that, with Black Lives Matter, and how that whole protest circuit got infiltrated by a bunch of radicals that have a completely different agenda, and that's their thing. So what happened there, and are you involved at all with that, or did you stay focused on just the kids thing?
No, I was doing both because, like, I remember I became a lifelong activist for my concern for Palestine. My dad used to hold my hand at 6 or 7 years old, and we'd walk in a Palestinian protest because genocides have been happening since 1948. This one, 45,000 genocided in Gaza. Now, again, I'm not anti-Jewish. Our Jewish brothers and sisters, they're our brothers and sisters, people of the book. This is about a genocide that's happening. Benjamin Netanyahu is found guilty of crimes against humanity. And I walked with rabbis in Ottawa condemning the thing.
Right.
So that puts people's hearts at ease. Now, we had people in the movement that were still working at Hands Off Our Kids. One lady, we had 5 of her nieces and nephews, younger than 7 and 5 and 6 years old, got killed. And that lady was a big part of our Million People March. There was a guy in Toronto that donated the signs for Hands Off Our Kids, lost 50 members of his household. So that's why I canceled October 21st. That's one reason. The second reason why I canceled October 21st, I saw it as a so many opinions about it, but the Christians and Muslims in the movement were saying, hey, yo, we need to discuss this to understand it. And we have the best people in the nation. So we decided to take the patient route. I went to about 4 or 5 Palestinian protests, and guess who I see?
Who?
My arch nemesis, Dina Sharif, who scolded me and called me a bigot, and that's the transphobe and all that stuff. I'm like, so you were fighting against these families September 20th and condemning parental rights and children's rights, and now you're talking about children's rights in Palestine. Very hypocritical of you. And she lost it, and then they're like, Camille, just, we don't want to, I'm here for Palestine. I'm here for all the world's kids. I'm not Palestinian, but I have compassion for my fellow man, as Prophet Muhammad said, peace be upon him. A person's either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. That's my human side talking about this thing. And, I condemn genocide on Ukrainians and Russians. That's an Orthodox Christian killing another Orthodox Christian. Muslims are not even involved in that one. So I'm for peace on earth, freedom of speech, liberation, capitalism, democracy, voting for the government that serves the people and not serving narcissists that think, they should decide the fate of people and how they should live and how they should drive.
So
that's what I'm for.
A lot of these characters have been nicknamed the name pro wrestlers, because they're like the pro wrestlers of the 1980s, where they don't really have a side, this side or that side. Are we still here?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna get back to this. Sorry, complications here. So then.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Right. So the nickname that's been given out is pro wrestlers, and it's because they're reminiscent of the pro wrestlers of the 1980s, where they were over the top. They're assigned,
very colorful.
They're assigned this side or that side. They don't really care which side they go on, as long as they get the attention. And that's really all that it's about.
Yes.
And so
you're a heel or you're a hero, right?
Right. And so these perennial protesters, they come out, and this, like the Dana Sharifs and a lot of the characters that you'll see out at a lot of these protests, and they're there as just a thing. I don't know what their motivations are. Some of them were genuine. I'll be honest with you. And I'm speaking like that of my arch nemesis. But, again, these people have some issues, and I implore them to get some help, because they're very insecure, very, very insecure. Well, the other thing that I found with some of these.
Here's the other thing. There's an elephant in the room. Muslims are saying, wait a sec, these people were protesting against us when we're and they're working with me for the past 6-7 months to prepare for June.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna be protesting for our kids, and these guys are going to be on the counter side. And so, Muslims, they don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time, there's a genocide happening in Palestine, and it's like a double-edged sword. You want to do the right thing. You lost family members there. The war, they're bombing Lebanon. There's 500 people killed in Lebanon. They're bombing parts of Syria. So it is an emotional thing if you have family back home and you're a second generation. Right?
You gotta be kidding me. Here we go. We're back. I was like, not a third time. Okay, so I wanted to add this one last part.
So what's happened right now,
okay,
there's some amateurs that are organizing, and it's university students. Mm-hmm. And Antifa, I saw Antifa in there. And they were talking to each other. You know how they work.
Yeah.
And they're exploiting sincere university students that just want to bring justice for Palestine. And those university students want a peaceful protest, as they protested with the Million People March and those 50 marches for Canada's kids all year. Mm-hmm. And so, again, Justin Trudeau, here's an opportunity. Our government, they're taking sides, and all the politicians are guilty of that. And now they're like, here's the chance to divide these people. That's why I canceled October 21st. I knew that was going to happen, and I knew they wanted to gaslight our initiatives, but we were about 100 steps ahead of them. That's why you have, the June campaign that you see with My Child June.
Mm-hmm.
That's 6-7 months of work while people were protesting for Palestine too.
Right. Now, I just wanted to add one extra point here, and that's the fact that some of these characters are coming out to these protests, and it seems that they're I don't know, from an outside perspective, it looks like they're just trying to be incendiary. There was one particular scene, I don't have the clip for it here, but I have seen the clip, so it is something that happened in Vancouver where the protesters were chanting long live October 7th. And of course that's absolutely incendiary, because that was
deposited in there. That was and again, it's innocent teens. I went to a protest and I left it because there was 14-year-olds on the mic, and it looks like they were being exploited by people with sinister motives. And it was very sporadic, wasn't organized at all. And there were some things that happened, and you could tell it's just a teenager upset. And teenagers, look, they're getting exploited with Soji and the sexual indoctrination. I'm sure they're going to get exploited with this. And so I was trying to mentor, and the police are like, Camille, we're so glad that you're here. I'm like, guys, I'm going to do my best here, but you know who's in these protests. Like, yeah, we definitely know, and we miss your work. I'm like, we're going to come back, man. I'm just trying to do my best here. And you know what? Just like they did to the truckers, they put plants and betrayed our Canadian truckers who transport our goods from coast to coast. Mm-hmm. They're doing it to the innocent Palestinian protesters on the streets. So, when us Muslim Canadians, when we saw our fellow Canadian white truckers coming down Ottawa, and they called them the white fringe.
Well, they weren't all white. That was the crazy part. Is they were everything.
Exactly. So what I did is, and a lot of Muslim groups, they sent a delegation to try to change that. And we got in the face of CTV and CBC. And guess what? They deleted all, the multi-faiths and colors, and they focused on just white Canadians to keep it the white fringe, often racist, often this, often that.
Yeah.
And you saw what happened.
Well, I documented it, and that was part of what got me started here on YouTube and documenting a lot of this fake news essentially that comes out. And of course, yes, you want white Canadians to look like a bunch of racists. You want Middle Eastern Canadians,
you want Muslims to look like a bunch of racist, anti-Semites,
terrorists, or whatever,
anti-Christian, anti-this. And so that goes back to my speech on June 13th of last year when Canadians came together, Christians and Muslims. Mm-hmm. And I've been an activist for 25 years of my life. And now you will believe me when I say there's a rhetoric going on in the media, on social media, to tell Christians that Muslims don't like them, and to tell Muslims that Christians don't like them. And I looked at the audience and said, today you guys are proof that we are one nation under God. And that's the rally that we're going to have on Saturday, June the 15th, to solidify that bond, because we quadrupled in size in terms of staff. We also have a lot of people coming in. I named 15 people in various positions, MCMs, and they're Christians. Mm-hmm. Actually, I would say 90% of them were Christians. Well, and the other stat is it's a lot of women too.
Okay, and your family's from a country, Lebanon, where Christians, Muslims, and Jews for 1,000 years lived in peace together.
Thousands of years coexisted.
So for people that think that this is a constant, always divide, it doesn't have to always be a divide. And politicians
never has been.
Yeah, politicians want that because that's the easiest way to control everybody is to divide them up and conquer each individual group. And I'm really,
well, think about it this way: if I was a white Protestant Christian, then I would be a racist for the movement. Now, I'm not black either. I'm not Asian. I'm Mediterranean. So the only thing you could do is pretty much say, I'm Muslim. Oh, he's bringing Sharia law to Canada. That Canadians don't even believe that anymore. I got the Quran back there. I practice my own Sharia law at home, but they want to scare you so me and you don't work together. They want to scare me that you're a KKK white supremacist,
I'm doing a bad job. I'm
and
doing a bad job of it.
yeah. So again, you look at somebody's color, you look at their creed. If they're black, you're saying, oh, black people are bad. They do a lot of things. But what about Nelson Mandela? What about Malcolm X? What about Muhammad Ali? Phenomenal people I looked up to, and I draw my lessons in everything that I do from those prominent black people. White people, I'm a big fan of JFK. Okay. I'm a big fan of Dr. Frederick Banting here in Canada, who discovered insulin because his best friend died and he found insulin for diabetes. I'm a big fan of Gabrielle Roy and Emily Stowe, who got women to vote in Canada 60 years ago. Those are the true feminists. Those ladies got beat up and they became doctors. The feminists today, they look like males, some of them. And they got purple hair.
That's a whole other conversation, Camille. I think we could talk about that all night long, I'm sure of it. But I want to get back to focusing on these events. How can people get involved if they want to join you in your efforts?
You know what? We're constantly recruiting people. You just go to handsoffourkids.ca and you tell them, hey, look, I'm Kylie from Whistler, BC. I'm a school teacher. I'd like a discrete position to give you information and to help out with the education wing. Because the education wing, I opened that a couple of months ago, and I named a department head who has a PhD. Are putting an education wing ambassador for every city in this country. And we're looking to penetrate every school in the country to make sure parents' rights are respected as well as children's rights. So the education wing, we named ones in Toronto. I named an education ambassador in Nova Scotia from Veterans from Freedom, a good friend of mine and brother now, Jeff Evely.
Right.
So I'm putting names out there because those are public. I'm gonna miss a lot of names. I don't want to upset anybody because I've been truly blessed by a great team of people. Great team of people. Some of them want to be discreet. I got very powerful people with me that you will never know about because they are in positions like in CSIS, like in the government, like in the police, because 98.4% of Canadians are parents. So we're actually more powerful than what the government is going to do to us because not everybody's going to comply with the dictatorship and the forced actions of the government telling us what to do.
So that again is handsoffourkids.ca if you want to get involved, if you want to help out, even discreetly, like you said, behind the scenes. Nobody needs to know that you're helping out. Nobody needs to know that you're getting involved. You can Absolutely share information with people on the down low so you don't get outed and you don't get in trouble because we know we live in a cancel culture today and people are terrified of losing their jobs because this is what's been happening across the board on a myriad of different issues. If you don't follow the mainstream narrative, you are likely to lose your job. I encourage people to get into the trades because there's a lot less of that happening in the trades. I still pull wrenches very, very successfully. Even though I talk about my opinions on the internet. Camille, I want to thank you for joining me today. Even though there was some hiccups in the internet and what we've got going on here,
that's okay.
You're always a good sport, and you've been doing a bang up job, and you've been organizing people for the sake of children. It doesn't matter what creed, color, clan you're from. You're doing this for everyone and everyone's kids in Canada and across the Western world now, which is really impressive. So I want to thank you so much. Is there anything else
Thank you
you
very
want to
much.
add? Where can people find you on your social medias, all
Well,
these
I just want
places?
to acknowledge Rana and Kareem from IT. They're working around the clock, and I had actually insisted, escalated to get this poster for you today. We had just made the announcement, and that was a couple of teams working on that. So I just want to acknowledge them. But again, what we're trying to do right now is fill in the blank for the calendar of June. Now, obviously, there's parts of June that we still need to work on, but every year we're here, we're not queer, and we're gonna protect our kids. How's that sound?
Sounds fantastic, Camille. Thanks again for joining me, and
God
we'll
bless you,
have you
brother.
soon again. Okay, just a little more to add to this story. Tell me about this picture. What was going on here? What were you doing?
Well, we had received some intel about the school that, obviously they had a PD day on June the 3rd for the nationwide pride flag ceremony.
Right.
So they decided the next day, June the 4th, that they were going to raise the pride flag. So I went there. It was supposed to take place at 10 a.m. They waited until 11 because obviously we had a surprise protest. And I went to the vice principal, very educated woman. Okay. And I told her, do you realize that you're putting a flag up that may have some pedophilia connotations to it, especially with the blue arch and the pink one? Again, there's the traditional pride flag or whatever, but, and you're also disrespecting the Canadian flag because you're putting a second flag because you only have one pole. You shouldn't have two flags on one pole. There's a Canadian flag etiquette. Okay. And so they got a little nervous. They had emergency meetings, and they were very stressed out, and they were almost close to canceling. So one of the school board representatives actually came to the school and said, "Keep going ahead with it." But as I was doing my TikTok live on Cayman Media, kids were being picked up by their parents because parents weren't told. And it was a total of over 160 or 69 parents, maybe 159. I can't remember the number, but parents were furious. And so they had to have an emergency meeting after this. And I promised them that I will bring it to the media. And so they were Googling me and they're like, uh-oh, I think we're going to be, nationwide now. And so now those are the pictures that you see before you today.
And this is the I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't speak French very well.
Odyssey, l'école élémentaire publique, l'Odyssey. Now my French is French a la English, but I wanted, and I shamed them, and I took a picture, and I'm going to make sure that Canadians, can look up that school and put pressure on the school not to do that again.
Right. And well, and all the schools across Canada, of course, we're seeing lots more pressure on them to keep this stuff just away from kids in general. I mean, if you want to introduce it to your own children, that's your prerogative. That's
nobody's gonna come into your house and tell you how to raise your kids.
Yeah, and
don't tell us how to raise ours.
That's essentially at the end of the day. That's it. All right, thanks, Camille, and of course we'll have you back again soon.
Awesome. I look forward to it.